Namaste, everyone. So we will get started with our session today. And I definitely want to welcome people who have registered for the session. And today's session, we have also kept for the people who are seriously interested in trying and trying to know what we are trying to do over here in terms of Jyotish fundamental, especially the level 1, and how we have a structure together. So we will get into all of those, and then we'll get into the session today. So we have much more to cover. So we'll just get started here. We usually start with our mantra. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejashvina Vadhitamastu Ma Vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay. So as we are starting this session, do like people to be asking question even in the middle if you have any. So I will have a flow over here, while in the beginning I will be talking about how we have came up with the session, and only request I will have is keep yourself muted, and whenever you have to speak, otherwise it disturbs the speaker. So if somebody is not uh, so that's the point, like you can disturb me in the middle as well, because we want to keep it more interactive today, so that you are clarified and know what is the plan going forward. And that will also help us in also spreading the words to the people, because there is a lot of work done in the background before we plan this session, and even the review, mentoring, bringing people. So we do want your involvement. At the same time, it's going to be a close knit team. We do not want it to be too big, so that we cannot handle everyone, because we have to give tutoring, review session, sending the books, writing course material. If somebody is lagging behind, we will help them out with the tutoring. If somebody is going really at a, like, really want to go at a fast level, we do give them session to make sure that they are, they are satisfied with what they have came here for. So given that, it's a close knit, we always want to keep it. So feel free to interact yourself. With that, let's talk about the Jyotish fundamentals. This is the second batch we started. We successfully started our Saturday batch by 15th April. And that batch is again going for the whole year. Starting from that time, we had some gaps when we do our Jyotish conference. So there was a gap for them, but it worked out for them because they could really digest the material very well. And, in between, we have to send them the textbooks and all that. So this batch is going to be going at a fast pace as compared to the earlier batch. So we will be meeting every Sunday, the same time, 10:30, and we will be going over lot about grahas. Okay, so in the middle of the presentation, I will talk about, sometime we are using the word like in an English term, astronomical, as well as the Sanskrit words. So giving the familiarity of those words is very important for you. So in the course material, there is like just 2 pages are there just to make you familiar about these words, so you follow the class very well. Uh, in addition to that, when we are going through these sessions, we have always have planned for the test in between. So it's not that hard and fast, like you really have to pass with, like, 90% from here. But having the test is very important for you and for us to know how much you have grasped the subject. And if you have not grasped the subject, and if you are still not able to answer the question, we have to intervene, and we have to come and help you out, is what the motive behind giving this test. And also moving you from one level to another level, there will be a short test we will be doing. And overall, this program is going to be a certification program, so where you will be once you know, it will also be recognized by other institute, by us, by like in terms of giving you a certification that this part you have successfully completed is very important. That's why you see it is a thorough syllabus, and the thorough program is there in terms of you be able to understand the subject very well. In Jyotish, we also use a word, something called how much we repeat. Okay. So I will, okay. So we repeat over here couple of things, like from the last session we are repeating what we have, summarizing that, and then moving on, bringing you a new subject, then again summarizing what has been repeated in first and the second session, so you are not missing out. Just in case you are like not able to join one or two live sessions, there is a parallel uh, recording, like learning system is there on jyotish.com. When you have enrolled for the course, you have created your login over there, and that is giving you an access, so that will becomes your reference. You go there, you check what has been done, what review has been done, what courses has been done, what course material has been given to people. You can download, you can look into the presentation which we are sharing with you. So that becomes your reference. In your convenience, you always go over there. We also assign mentors to people. So you can have a one-on-one session with the mentor. Many a time I keep myself as a default mentor. So if you are not, have a mentor, you can anytime confirm and ask your questions to us. Okay, so people who do not know us, we started in 2020 in terms of our full-fledged online school. Before that, we were also present in terms of our conferences going on from last 30 years by now. I will just make sure everybody is muted. So there we go. Uh, and especially at the time of the conference, we see multiple faces. We invite all different kind of astrologers, and we also meet, not in a pandemic time, but before and after, we are meeting in a place called Ashravidya Gurukulam. So we will always invite you to be there with us and join us sometime in the conference. And just to mention, the conference is not for the basic and the beginners, while it's at an intermediate level. If you already have familiarity, it will be helpful for you to be able to follow the subject. So we just keep that in mind. So today, when we are looking into, even today, we will be covering a lot of stuff, giving you an introduction to the class, talking about even what is Jyotish is all about, why it is important, why people should be bothered about this, how Jyotish connects to the spirituality, how it shows us a path, and how it gives us a torch to show a path to others as well. And also, I will be touching upon some of the strengths and the weaknesses. I will be touching also upon the astronomical aspect of it and getting some of the deeper meaning into the planets as well today. So who I am obviously a consulting Vedic astrologer and a counselor, been dedicated myself from the last 12 years to the study of the Vedic sciences, and been mentoring and consulting on the platform of Jyotish.com for quite some time. That helps me basically in my profession. I am a banking professional. Data sciences and the people these days are really familiar with the AI. So I say myself an expert in the AI and the data sciences. That's my main field. While this area has really very passionate about the knowledge which we are bringing it together over here. So I do some of the consulting. I bring the importance of being in the corporate and bringing the knowledge of the ancient science together. Okay, so this is nothing but I have already touched upon on this point. So very quickly, overall in the year, the full certification program, which has 100 hours, it is going in a live as well as in an on-demand format. And this particular the June 9th July one, which we have started, will also become a part of the full course program if people want to move into the module 2 and 3. So module 2 will be starting in September, and then module 3 in December, module 4 in some time later. So that's how it is already planned. And for more information, you can always go on this particular site and be on this URL, be able to look into what exactly how it is already planned. Few things which I have brought in terms of the syllabus. We again, this is again on a very high level we are talking about here, that we will be taking this concept, the basic astronomy, planets, planetary strength, zodiac signs, getting a lot into those dashas, transit, and again, when we are talking about transit, is a basic transit we will be touching upon. We will not be touching upon, I will say, the advanced portion of the transits over here. Even the nakshatras, we will be giving you an introduction to the nakshatras over here, while will not be getting into lot details of nakshatras, because that comes as a part of the advanced analysis into that. But we do want to make sure you understand it is there and how to bring it into the knowledge of it. Otherwise, this nakshatras can take us to a big level. When it comes to the divisional charts, we will be looking into divisional charts in lot in details over here. Divisional charts in terms of the calculation is will also be touching upon on that. But it's I will say it's optional for people to, if they want to do a calculation or do not want to do calculation, but we will be touching upon on those as well. Just want to make sure. I hope I am looking into those. So this is only one of those. Thank you. Moving on. This is how our levels are planned. When we are talking about levels, in the first level, we will be touching a lot about the grahas, astronomical uh, elements, as well as looking into the grahas strength, how to identify their meaning. So the main base, the grahas, when I'm using, it's the planets which I'm referring to. So there is a specific use why we use the word grahas. So we'll get into those as well. But the focus is more going to be the into the planets as well as the zodiac sign. Okay. So a lot to talk about in that area. I can tell you, in our Saturday batch, we have already spent, like, 7 to 8 sessions about all of this, and still we have not gone to the Rashi. So so much to cover in this. Understanding these planets in depth is not easy one. It does require memorization. It does require to you to go through the stories. Also, it requires us to show you in the horoscope how even having a meaning of grahas, you can relate for the prediction of for whoever you are consulting for. Second part, when the level 2, we will be focusing on the bhavas properties, significator, and the dashas. So it looks like it's less in that, but when it comes to bhavas, it becomes, we are giving another dimension. So planets become one dimension, rashis become second, and the bhavas becomes the third dimension. So when we are bringing a third dimension, it's a much deeper dimension to this. So a lot to talk about over there. And again, every time when we are talking about, we are showing you an examples, taking you to the horoscope. And when you get into a horoscope, depending upon the level of the students, we also get into the details of those, so that we are also satisfying their needs. Level 3 has a lot of focus on yogas. So after having this basics elements very thorough with that, this thorough part is very important for us, because every time if somebody is not thorough, we will do a review session for you. We will be sending you course material. We will be touching base with you to see where you are. Okay, and we'll giving you a homework to see that you are studying it together. While it sounds like that we really demand a lot, so it's not that case. We basically demanding around 2.5 hours of the time from the students every week to be able to go through, and that does include the attendance. So you are coming in the live session and in the review session, that includes all of it. So we will be taking care, and when you are doing your self study, that comes on the side. And then the level 3, a lot of yogas we will be looking into, graha yoga, in general, understanding how those yogas fall in place, and in the people's love, how we add to the prediction of this. And this becomes very easy to be able to identify and understand the meaning of yogas if you know the first two parts. Because many a time people come to us and say that I already knows bhavas, I already knows grahas, can I join from the level 3? We say, yes, you can join from the level 3, uh, but we want to make sure you know these two. So we will be giving you access for these ones too. And we will be testing you where you are before we allow you to come in the level 3. Because whatever we are covering, especially in the even the level 1, we will be at least spending 25 to 30 hours. Same in the bhavas, another 25 hours. So this, 50, 60 hours is spent cannot be just gone when somebody is coming in the grahas. And it actually works for the person, because for some reason, if you do not know even the astronomical concept, and when you are going in the yogas, it may not be very clear. Okay, especially the strength and the weakness, if you do not know how to identify it, you do not know the strength of that particular. So we want to make sure and then we start to look into, even at this stage you can start to do your own chart analysis, because the shell has already been given to you. And when you reach to the module 4, we get into divisionals a lot, and then we talk about bhavat bhavam, how to look into the basics from the one lordship to other lordship, and how from one natives you can look into the relationship of their, like in the, either you talk about students, like I would say students, but is like the child or the family or the partner or the business, how you look into a different houses from there. And much more yogas is also covered, and then the calculation of the yogis, and so all those part which are completing the chart analysis is there. You are not seeing nakshatras over here, while we have added a nakshatras, basic nakshatras as well, to be able to cover in, I think it's there in the mm, uh, module 3. Moving on, so this is what I talked about. We'll give you the understanding of all of this. Having a basic understanding. So what we do is, even when we are starting a session, we do try to give you a course material earlier, so that you can read through, and when you come in the class, you are prepared. Okay, so having this basic understanding of a horoscope is important. We will be touching upon on all of this. While it is 1.5 hour session, we cannot be covering a lot. uh, so having some understanding, or also you asking question and we are giving you reference, it will be very important for you to understand the subject or grasp it very well. Uh, Another thing, whenever we are looking into a horoscope, or rather put it as a natal chart, when you are born, we have created this natal chart. It talks about the static part which is related to the chart. Okay, dynamic aspect we will not be looking into in the beginning of the session. We will be looking into dynamics later. And again, having some of the meanings in the advance, if you know, if you have some books to reference. If not, we do send the test books to people. So having that will be help you to understand what we are talking about. Okay, so as I said, course material will also be there. Some of the, and we were touching a lot into in the basic element, the descriptive part of the astrology. Okay, when it comes to predictive part of the astrology, we will not be covering a lot in the first year, because it does require our foundation to be clear for you to go to the prediction. So I hope you understand that part. Okay, so let's get started. What is astronomy? Okay, so astronomy is to understand the language of the planets, so-called heavenly bodies. Okay, and how it is mapped. So this is determined on the basis of the astronomy and the mathematics, and then they are mapped in a horoscope. Okay? This horoscope looks different from a different location. Okay, depending upon where the person is located in terms of the longitude and the latitude. Okay, there is a calculation happens. So let's simplify it. When somebody is born, and I will be taking you examples as we are going further. Okay, so when somebody is born, you look into the sky, okay, and then you see some astronomical pattern over there. So planet is over here, it looks in this pattern, and looking into that, we are doing a calculation, some mathematical calculation, and also from where you are seeing the sky. Okay, so that's why in a horoscope we ask for date of birth, time of birth, and location of the birth. Okay, so these three things becomes very important, because why date of birth is the planetary position at that date. Okay, is different from another date. Time, we know the planets move. Okay, some are fast moving planets, some are slow moving planets, so we have to look into that. Then place. Okay, from the place, for example, if we are sitting over here, we are seeing a sun in east when the sun is rising right now in US, while when we are seeing the same thing from Singapore or Australia, it's going to be evening, so sun will be in west over there. Okay, so that will also be visible in the horoscope. So given that, it's very important to look into the location from where we are going to map our horoscope. What is horoscope? Horoscope is nothing but it is mapping what you are seeing in the sky, okay, with some calculation done in the background. Okay, and for that the Shastras has talked a lot about those. So when some of the Shastras which we are following while disseminating this knowledge to you is Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra. We are looking into Manteshwari's Fal Deepika. We are looking into Saravali. We are also touching upon on the Brihat Jatak. So these are the few classic which we are looking into, and we are also referring to some of the books which are giving us the other greater meanings to it. While main text for us is Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra. Now the question arises to people, if all the knowledge is there in the Brihat Parashara, why don't I just go and read the book and I get the knowledge? Okay. Very interestingly, these books talks about, when you open the book, it talks about go and find a guru for yourself. Okay. This text are written in a verses format, and to be able to really understand the knowledge, you want somebody to be orally transferring the knowledge to you. So it is also recommended from this classic test to find a person who can really work with you to understand this now, understand the language of the astronomy. Okay. Moving on, why there is a need to even be looking into the horoscope. So there is, and this is where we can become slightly philosophical and talk about the karma theory. Okay, how there is a correlation between the grahas itself. Let's use the word planet for the time being. So the planet uh, and their association with the karma, and how they store the karmas and give at a specific time. Okay, those bodies are unborn, uh, and they have their karmas stored for specific people in, you can say, in a specific shell. It's there, and how scientifically it gives in the people's life. So what basically we are talking about is the karmas which people suffer through. That's not the new karmas. Okay, it is stored for you somewhere, and it's coming to you, and then there is a cause and effect from there. So if something happened, there is a reason behind it's happening. Okay, the control you have is how to react to that, or to associate yourself with that karma without understanding that, maybe it is because of this system. So we do become philosophical over here, and we talk about now understanding the Jyotish itself. Why it is we should be knowing Jyotish. Okay, so the Vedas has talked about that how the Jyotish is the organ. Okay, it's a part to be able to understand Vedas, because it seems pretty good to people that, yeah, let me go and read the ancient science. When you start to read the ancient science, it doesn't make sense. Okay, while it's a really a scripture which is written with the thought that it has a information concealed. Okay, so a lot of information is there which can really guide you through the whole life. Okay, but when you start to have a knowledge, you have to first understand what's the varnas. You have to understand, like, as we say, the alphabets, and then you understand the words, and from the words you understand the grammar, then you understand some of the, like, how it is written. And what I am talking about is primarily the word of Sanskrit, because that was the language in which it is written. So you have to understand all of that. Then you have to be also be knowing how to pronounce those. Then you get the good meaning out of it. While even in that, the six Vedangas is Jyotish. So having a knowledge, and it is one of the most important one, because that gives you an eye which is not there with any of the other Vedangas. Okay, and that eye can open up for to have a knowledge of past, present, and future. Okay, so this is called, in the word we use is called Trikaldarshi. So people who can see all three are Trikaldarshi. Now the question is, in a modern life, do everybody become a Trikaldarshi? No, we do not. Everybody can become a Trikaldarshi, because it all depends upon who should be having this knowledge, what kind of a connection they have, where that, how the knowledge is flowing to them. And also would like to mention over here, is, or the time spent on this knowledge is not a criteria to know are you a great astrologer or not, because this knowledge is way beyond that. So we also have astrologers of the 9-year-old. We also have an astrologer of 70, 75-year-old. Okay, so it's not the time spent on this. It's about the devotion. It's about what is coming in your way, in terms of, bringing the knowledge for others. How much of a devotion has been given? So there are, how much of a deserving candidates are there? So we always talk about seriousness of the study is very important. Seriousness in your mind. It doesn't mean you are spending like 12 hours to just understand this language. But the seriousness in terms of the knowledge is very important, even respecting the knowledge. Okay, so we always talk about not to like mock the knowledge. Okay, mock the knowledge among friends, and you're like, no, 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 I really know this, and also feeling very proud of, I have taken a step to go towards, and you guys are like really fool doesn't know. We cannot do and assimilate. Just respect the knowledge because it's coming in your path to get that knowledge. It's not coming in everybody. Not everybody is that deserving candidate to be able to grasp that knowledge. So keep that in mind. Moving on, so we are talking about which part we will be really focusing upon. So we use the word astronomy. So we will be talking about astronomy, but we will be talking about astronomy to an extent it is applying to Jyotish. Okay, we will not be getting into to understand how the Jupiter look like and what is the material on the Jupiter. Okay, we will talk about the significance of the Jupiter, how it is relates to the people. Okay, another part, samhita. Okay, the natural phenomena. We will also be touching upon on those ones. This is called, comes as a part of the mundane astrology. While we have our own limitations over there, so we do not get into become somebody who is really predicting the events from that angle. Okay, our focus is going to be on the Falit Jyotish a lot. So within Falit Jyotish, this itself is an ocean. So in the Falit Jyotish, we will be focusing upon the Jatak, Prashna, Muhurta, and Parihara. We will be talking more about it as we are moving on. Okay. So when we are talking about the Jatak, okay, the natal horoscope which we make, okay, within that we talked about the Parashtri system, Gemini system, Tajik, and the Nadis. So our focus in the beginning for the throughout the year going to be the Parashtri system. Parashtri system is what we talked about. Behad Parashra Hora Sastra is the Rishi who has written this verses, and our focus is going to be there. So we give a direct reference from there, because as you can start to understand from the other places, there are times we divert. So that diversion is more about, like, say I am going through a consultation and I have observed something and I have done a research on something, so I write a book about my own observation. Okay, so our thing will always be going to be Shastra based. So we will be looking into, if the Parashtra has not talked about that particular thing, we always rely on what the Parashtra has talked about, okay, in their book. And we are relying on those as compared to relying on the observation of the people. So let's talk about briefly about the Earth. So this one, yeah. So when we talk about the Earth, so I skipped one or two presentation. It's just kind of repeating what I have already spoken about. So let's look into the Earth. Okay, what we are seeing is it's slightly tilt. Okay, north and the south pole. Equator is coming at a 0-degree latitude. Okay, and then there is another slicing happening, which is called 0-degree longitude. Okay, north and south, and then from the left and right you can see east and west. Okay, so and the overall the degrees of this is, if it taking a whole round in 24 hours, how many degrees it will pass through? Simple mathematics, 360 degrees, right? So when it is passing through a 360 degree in 24 hours, okay, so then you can relate to this in terms of close to 2 hours we are having 360 30 degrees, right? So we will look into this calculation once again. Okay, and 1 hour will be equivalent to 15 degrees. These things again becomes very important as we are moving on. Why that is becoming important? Because Say you are born at 12 o'clock night. Okay, 12 o'clock night, and then if somebody else is born at 2 o'clock, okay, the Rashi rising, and by that time, within these 2 hours, the earth has moved another 30 degrees. Okay, so at 12 o'clock, if somebody is born, it has born into a specific Rashi, while at 2 o'clock, some other person is born into a different Rashi. Okay? So there are times people say the same day I am born. Why this is different? Why even the position of the planets are looking different? Okay? So depending, so for a same day, some of the planets are moving slow. So they will be having a same Rashi, while some planets are moving fast. So the planets which are moving fast, they are having a different position within that 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock, born on the same day. Okay, and this concept also becomes very important. So that's why we can always consider degrees into when we are looking into horoscope. Okay, because degrees correlates to the time, and with that time we can always relate. Sometimes people say that I'm not sure I am born at like 12 o'clock or 12:05 or 12:15, and if you ask mother, they will say maybe 12 o'clock, okay, or maybe 12:30. Okay, to simplify it. Okay, for us simplification doesn't work. We have to look into which, because we have to go to the prediction, we have to really understand the person, so we don't round off a figure over here, so we understand. So there is a correlation of the degrees and the time the person is born, so it really have a higher implication as we go further. Okay, let's understand this concept as well. Okay, and because this is a basic how you can go forward. So when we are looking into earth, and we see, you cannot see all, like while standing at one position we cannot see the north pole as well as south pole, but we are seeing exactly in the middle a band which is all around the earth, and that is where our rishis, ancient people, they have observed this, that we are seeing most of these planets are moving through. Okay, and as they are moving through and they are giving and their influence on the earth, let's understand this band. This band is 18 degree wide, placed obliquely to the equator. Okay, so it's not exactly at the equator, it's at a degree. Okay, and if you look into this band and if you divide them, and now you understand this is exactly same as the earth, so it becomes 360 degree. So this 360 degree divided by 12 become 30 degree each. Okay, so these 30 degrees are called zodiac signs. Okay, this zodiac signs has not look into the sun sign. Okay, names are quite similar. Okay, but it's not exactly is the sun sign. So we have seen this making this into 12 signs. While if you're looking into the same zodiac belt, if you divided it by 27, okay, same 36 360 divided it by 27, it comes to 1320. Okay, 13 degree and 20. So that's also becomes the nakshatra. Okay, so these 27 divisions are called nakshatras, and 12 divisions are the signs. Okay, and the degrees for science is 30 degree, for each nakshatra is 13 degree and 20. Okay, you can definitely sit down and do this calculation from your side and see. Moving on to understand, so when we are looking into the horoscope, how does it look like? Okay, there are also other horoscopes. Okay, there are also the ways of looking into through the circles and all that. While we focus upon these two very famous horoscope. Okay, one snapshot, and they look very different from each other. Okay, even how there are times whatever you get used to of, okay, you will always want to see in your planets into the same way. So in the beginning, just make your decision where you want to go, which one you are finding it more simpler to look into. While as when we do the presentation, we always make sure that we have a North Indian as well as South Indian charts, because depending upon the comfort of a person. So let's look into the North Indian chart. So what North Indian chart is basically showing you over here is when you have, it's showing us a 12 houses over here. So far we talked about 12 signs. Okay, we did not talk about 12 houses. So each sign has given one house. Okay, so each house is also have 30 degrees within that, because it's occupying one rashi, one sign within that. Okay, so now simplifying, 12 rashis, 12 houses, and 27 nakshatras. And when we are looking into, and also it's a map of your sky. Okay, so it's a map of the sky. That means you can also see over here a direction, right? In the earth, we can see a direction: north, south, east, west. Okay, over here, the first house which you see is called rising sign. Okay, this is where the east is there. Exactly opposite as we saw on the earth is going to be south. It's going to be west. East, west, north, and south. Okay. Again, these things has its own importance. As you understand, in the east, when the sun is rising, has a lot of strength. So it also relates to the strength of the planets we will be looking into later. Right now, let's understand how to even read it and how the North Indian style is different from the South Indian. In the North Indian styled horoscope, we are looking into this east, west, north, south. Then we go anti-clockwise. Okay. So we are doing anti-clockwise because the rest of the planets are moving in the west to east, the way Earth is moving. Okay. So when we see this, and when we say not anti-clockwise, you see the houses are written. First house, this becomes second house. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th. Okay? So this is how it is dispatched. Now, when we are going into a South Indian style chart, over here, okay, so one more point before I get into the South Indian chart. When you look over here, the rashis or the signs changes. Okay, so when we say changes means sometime you will see one over here which correspond, and I've already not talked about the rashis, so I will be going over there. So there are rashis, 12 rashis are there. It's called Aries, Taurus. Okay, so I will be talking about those as well. While just simplification, the Aries, which actually also called in the sign, the first sign of this, say it is rising over here. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4. So one become Aries, then second become Taurus, and then Gemini, and then so on. While when it is a Taurus rising, okay, so when you look into the sky in the east, the Taurus is rising. So in that case, what happens? This becomes 2, then 3, 4, and this is where we will see the 1. When it comes to our South Indian chart, okay, we fix over here. Okay, we fix some of the signs over here. We fix the houses over here. Okay, it also helps people in understanding. So especially the houses are fixed over here. While over here, I mean, houses are fixed over here as well. Over here, the Rashis also have their given a position. So say Aries is coming here, so it will be the Aries all the time showing up over here. So sometimes people, it helps. Other thing is it goes in a clockwise direction. Okay. So you can count from here and then you can go. So once you understand this, that will help you in. So another thing is whenever you are counting, because sometime when we talk about so that one planet is looking into another planet. Okay, so it's like, influencing the other planet. So it's like most of the times, like say it's 7 away, it's looking into. So we are counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7. Okay, so when we are doing this, uh, when you are counting the shelf over here. So I will not be getting a lot into these concepts. Usually this becomes a part of the course material, but if somebody has question, we can definitely look into. But I have briefly touched upon on all of this. Primarily, it's giving the name to the zodiac. What does exactly mean? It talks about constellation divisions. If it is 27 divisions, how much degrees it relates to. If it's a 12 divisions. So while we are primarily referring to the zodiac belt itself. Okay, and that's what this zodiac is all about. Even the calculation of this latitude and the longitude, and now you can imagine how smart was those rishis, or their calculation of the math was so strong. They used to do all of this calculation with their hands, and just looking into the sky, they can make a horoscope of a person. So I mean, when even we teach it to people who really want to know about horoscope making as well. Okay, and one more thing I would like to mention is when we were looking into the North Indian style chart, the east rising part is also given a name called ascendant. Okay, so that becomes important because many a time we start to do the horoscope analysis and we forgot to tell what is called ascendant. So ascendant is where that the eastern horizon we are seeing a point in the zodiac. So that's what the ascendant is all about. Okay, and would also like to talk a little bit and wait over here to talk about the moon and like the planets. The movement of this planet becomes very important also at the time of, we say, something called birth time rectification. Okay, so remember one example I said, two person is born on the same day, 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Okay, what will be different? So a couple of planets are going to be looking different within this time frame, is because it had moved from the 12 to 2 hours, right? Degrees, 30 degrees. Which planet is moving the fastest? Moon, right? So do you see the moon moving 12 degrees? So the moon will be moving the fastest over here. So the time, from 12 to 2, say just for simplification, at the 12 o'clock, the moon was in Aries. By this time, it has reached to, by 2 o'clock, it has reached to Gemini. Okay. So now you can understand how, even if you understand the meaning of moon, which we are going to talk about, how it's going to have a two different people, on the same day within the interval of 2 hours. Okay, and we can also talk about the twins, how to look into if they're born really close apart. So sometimes their moon is also close within this 12 degrees. So how do we look into? So that's also a part. So the average daily motion, it's more about looking into a slower planet or a really slow planet, or it's going to be a fastest planet. So one thing, like, so you mentioned is the moon, then you look into the Mercury, okay, and the Venus. So next one after moon is the sun, is the second fastest planet, not second, I think even the Mars is also going. So after moon, the Mars, then sun, then Mercury, then Venus, then Mercury, then Jupiter, then Saturn. So this Jupiter and Saturn are the slowest moving planet. Okay. They also helps us in obviously in the prediction and looking into the time of this. And there are times, so you can also relate to one thing is called Sadhe Sati. When the Sadhe Sati happens, Saturn is not moving away faster. Okay, so it really takes 2.5 years for Saturn to move from one Rashi to another Rashi. Okay, so it's so slow. Okay, and in between also there is a concept called retrograde, so it moves back and then again it goes back, and or rather it appears to be moving in that direction while it has its impact. So not getting a lot into that, so let's just briefly talk about the grahas. So grahas, and when we are trying to correlate to how they are relating to the karmas, to understand even the more characteristics of these planets, because as we understand more, we learn the story, more we understand it better. Okay, so the sun relates to the incarnation of Vishnu, Ram. Okay, so you can also see Survansi is the word used. Okay, over here. So the sun, the characteristic of sun and the Rams matches a lot, and this is what has been told to us from Brihadrashtra Horasas. And similarly, you can look into the moon, moon, Krishna, Mars, Narsimha, Mercury, Buddha. So this is the Buddha is the Mercury we are talking about. So Buddha, so it's a very good, I will say a reference for the basic students to either know these stories, or if you do not know, just refer, do the Google, try to understand the stories. That will help you in, understanding that grahas better. Okay, so it relates some of the characteristics over there. Okay, moving on. Okay, so this part I will briefly touch upon on this one, because this makes a distinction of why I am using the word grahas and I'm not using the word planet all the time, because grahas is basically said it is a body which has a, I will say, a reserve of your karma are there. Okay, so in the planets that meaning is not coming. What the graha is actually means to, which is a Sanskrit word for the planets, and it's a divine entity, has a significant influence on the human life as well as their destiny. Now the question comes, why should we worship the graha? Okay, they are somewhere too far away from us, they are influencing. What is the point? So what Brihadrashtra has talked about, this one is, these bodies which are influencing us, they are divine soul. They are also called the unborn incarnation of Vishnu. And they have given a specific duty. Okay? And how do you understand they are divine beings? Obviously, you can meditate upon it. And this is where the meditation part which we are adding, it's called Paramatma Ans and Jivatma Ans. Okay? So a being I'm using, not human being, the being which has a higher quantity of Paramatma Ansh, they become divine. A being which has a higher proportion of Jivatma, they are living being, they are mortal, they will come and go. Okay, So that's how you understand and define this component. So these grahas have a higher proportion of Paramatma Anshit. Okay? That's why, and they are having uh, all the, we say a word called Sanchit Karma. So it has a component of all the karmas there, and it gives when the time comes. So there are times people say, I'm really suffering. Okay? That suffering is not because you are suffering, you are not understanding, is also a word we use. Okay? And when the people understand that, when we open up a chapter in front of them, and when they understand it, that becomes, they really say, oh, wow, I'm feeling calm in my mind. So having this basic understanding helps us being like, okay, thank you. Okay, it's really there for me. And that's the reason I should be respecting what is there in front of me. Now, moving on to talk about, let's talk a little bit about what Brihat Prashra has talked us about, how you can relate these planets to who we are. Okay, and when we are relating in a horoscope, obviously the language of the planet is not exactly over here. So how we are relating it. So sun is considered to be more as a soul. Okay, moon, mind. Okay, so when we talk about sun in the world of Jyotish, Vedic astrology, we are just giving you few meanings over here. Okay, while the importance of the sun is very, very high, there are books written just on the sun. Okay, the importance of sun, when the sun is low, what all it can do in the people's life. When it is sun is really rising, what can happen in the people's life. Okay, so few of the meanings we are bringing you over here just to have a gist of it and to understand. For the beginners, it's very important for you to have it as a part of you. Okay, so in the beginning we ask questions like, okay, can you give me two meanings of each grahas? Okay, so it should be there with you. So the sun relates to the soul. In one word we can define it as a soul. Then it's about the power, authority, creativity, vitality. Okay, so the vitality, even the health concerning, is also comes from the sun. The power and the authority is also there, and if I have to really extend the meaning, then I can like into the behavior, and then like looks into their confidence of a person also comes from the sun. So there are much more, we can keep going on to this one, but at this point of time, the way we also say a person who is leading a country should have a great sun. Okay, or should have a good sun, or rather have a good strength, should be there. Okay, so that gives them this power and authority to be able to move the country in a certain direction. Moon, so when we comes to moon, again, greater importance has been given when we talk about sun and moon even together. They are called luminaries. Okay, so when we do calculations, we always look into from the sun and the moon as well. So the importance, it's given like this. When we talk about an ascendant, which I talked about in the east, it is rising, is called, that particular shell is called ascendant. Okay, even the place where sun is sitting, doesn't matter is it sitting in east or sitting in west or sitting in south or north, that has its own importance. Okay, so we do many of the calculation is done just from the where the sun is rising. So wherever it is, that becomes a whole horoscope changes from there. Same is the case with the moon. Okay, so it has its own importance when it comes to the birth chart, and especially the rectification of the chart, which becomes a complex analysis to be done for the advanced students, but the clues starts from the here itself. So when it comes to moon, uh, it affects the mind. It also affects the emotion. Okay, intuition. Okay, so having a great moon or a strengthful moon, that means the person has a good, I will say, strong positive emotions. Intuition is strong. The person can imagine better, also have a good mother. Okay. Nothing can shake the person. Okay? While when the moon is affected, okay, that affects complete mind. The person will be very emotional. The time something is said, the person will start crying. So the emotion get hurt. So the weakness of the moon also comes when, how I'm just trying to talking about the strength and the weakness, how it affects the same thing what you are seeing on the right hand side, which is emotion and the intuition and imagination. Okay. So moving on to the Mars. Mars is, the courage. Mars, as we will be moving on and talking about the characteristics of these planets, then you will see how the Sun and Mars is very different from each other. While in terms of the power, the way you see the energy, aggression, argument, ambition, courage. So these are also qualities of a leader. Okay, so leader is going to be a powerful, like having a good sun. It should also have an energy of Mars, but too much of Mars, it becomes an aggression argument, uh, very ambitious word can be applied. So getting deeper becomes the next step, while just even over here we wanted to add it together. Mercury, having, it's the one word we say it is speech. Okay, we also say a communication. Okay, we talked about verbal communication as well as we talked about the written communication. While Mercury relates more to the verbal communication, and when it comes to the Mercury is also, we'll say, a intellect. Okay, so combination, okay, also works together. So if somebody has a good Mercury, you can say the person can do a good calculation. Okay, can communicate it much better. Okay, learning and adaptability is very high. You can really grasp the subject pretty well. When we are moving on to Jupiter, it's, we also say a word, wisdom, knowledge. Okay, also relate it to the prosperity, spirituality. So, again, each grahas in the world of Vedic astrology, we become emotional about to talk about, because everyone is a sea in itself. Okay. So even talking about Jupiter, how when it impact a person, what all goodness it brings, and when it is not doing good in a house, what all it can do. So it's like, having that understanding, that is where whole Jyotishi starts. So Jupiter is made about the wisdom and the knowledge, and it's also a very good planet to have uh, be strengthful. So if it has a good strength, we say, okay, nothing else is needed if you have a very strong Jupiter in your horoscope. Venus, Venus has more to do with the in this. It's the one word we say it simil. While when it comes to the deeper meaning of it, we talk about beauty, love, sexuality, and the romance, and also a lot to do about the luxury and the creativity also comes from the Venus. More of the feminine qualities is what we are talking about when it comes to Venus. Uh, Saturn, when we are looking into Rashtra has given us the word grief, while there are also words like discipline, which you are seeing, the hard work, bringing, making a responsibilities. So those is also comes with that. Rahu Ketus are more of a shadow planets They don't have given a position in terms of rashis. So when you will look into the rashis and their lordship, you will not find Rahu Ketu anywhere. But they are the planets which wherever, so but the importance of them is very high, because they really makes people, you know, say, making it more materialistic. Okay, bringing something which is not existing, but it really a past karma brings and comes in the people's life when they are very active into the hobby. Okay, past karma and how they relate to the materialistic world. Yeah. Moving on. So again, this is pretty much a summary of what I have been mentioning about Jyotishi, 9 planets, 12 rashis, 12 bhavas, what is horoscope. We already talked about. It's a map of the position of the planets, sign, and the houses at the time person is born. Okay, so there is a slot at the time you are born. Snapshot is called natal horoscope. This is also called birth chart. Okay, and looking into that, the prediction can be done. Okay, so even now you can see somebody is born. You make a horoscope. You can talk a lot about the person's child. While the Shastras has also given us a caution, how much to talk about whom. Okay, so that's why it's very important for Jyotishi to relate themselves to the Shastras and follow and respect the Shastras when they are disseminating this knowledge to the either students or even following those norms when when you are doing a consultation for the people, because one line should be there before the consultation and after the consultation. The life of the person who is sitting in front of you has to change. Okay, so if it is not changing, that means that astrologer has not done the right job. Okay, has or doesn't have sufficient knowledge to be able to bring it. This has to change. There are times this consultation can take like 5 consultation for you to change the person. Okay, so change is not literal change. Literal change means like giving the knowledge whatever with the expectation the client has come to the astrologer, that has to be fulfilled. So again, the other part is like as nakshatras also I talked about in terms of 27 nakshatra, it has a relation to the moon. So that's why it's called lunar nakshatras as well. So when it comes to transit, we are talking a lot about the static part of this, while the planets are not static. We talked about that, moon is moving the fastest, then the Mars, and then the sun. They are always moving from one place to another place, and that aspect is called planetary transit. From one Rashi to another Rashi. One part which people have done in our world is they have related to the festivals. Uh, how planets are moving into different signs, and they have related it to the festivals so that we remember, respect, and celebrate the days, which the days which has a good energy coming in. For example, okay, uh, Makar Sankranti. Okay, that happens in the beginning of the year. Makar Sankranti, 2 words. Makar, Capricorn. Sankranti is when sun is moving into a different, coming into Capricorn. Okay. One thing happens to the sun when it's coming into the Capricorn is it reaches to at a directional place, south, and it's quite visible. And you should also observe it. You will see till 12, or usually it happens either on like either 14th or 15th of January, 14, 15, rather start from 13 to 15, you can observe. You will observe that before 13, is the sky is still darker. Okay, while after 15, the brightness has suddenly come. in the sky. We celebrate that time because now the sun has got that energy, because while being in the south into that Rashi, it gives in the strength, okay, strength of giving the lights. And the whole, and also there is one more example I can bring in. During April, what happens is sun moves, that's called a Sankranti. Okay, Mesh relates to Aries, and Sankranti, that means sun moving the Rashi. Okay, so as we, Mesh is Aries. Okay, and what did we talk about in the sign? We started with the Aries. So from April onward, now the sun is starting the whole cycle of going from one Rashi to another Rashi. Okay, so there are times people who follows that, they say our new year has started from that time in April, which is called Mesh Sankranti, is when the sun moves to Aries and it has started its own cycle from going from the Aries going till Pisces. Okay, so just wanted to give you this concept of transit and how it relates to the festival, and how you, and that becomes a very auspicious time even for the meditation of the people, because when it moves, it comes with the immense energy over there. Okay, so I also have a small horoscope to be able to show you. This part, as we talk about, is people always ask this question, and I very briefly talked about, should I worship grahas or not, how they have a connection to the divine energy and they governs people's life. Okay, so it's a good idea to be have to keep seeking the blessing from these grahas. Okay, the seeking blessings, when it comes to, you can always relate to that through a connection which you have. You can do your prayers. So when you say, when I do a prayer, is the grahas listening to me? So yes, they are listening to you. Okay, because there is an intention coming when you are doing your prayers. So that's why there are times when you are doing the rituals, it really helps. Okay, in terms of the connection. So now, earlier it was a wired connection. People understand when there is a wireless connection, you still understand, right? There is a connection happening, and this is how we are talking to each other at this time. So there is a connection between them. So you should be, seeking the blessing that does mitigate a negative effect. Okay, so so now the question comes is like, how much of a prayer should be done, how much of a rituals to be performed, does remedies really work, and all those. So it all depends with the main thing which is important over here is your own intention. Okay, so whatever you are doing with the right intention, and with your own time. Okay, so the time factor is very important, because that is a scarce commodity which you have when you are there on this earth. Okay? So wherever you are spending your time, okay, should be thought upon, and you should be using. So if, when you are, say, you are talking about that, does remedies work, should I spend time on this one or not? Mm. When you are spending time, say, in terms of going and serving somebody with the right intention, it will really works. If you are serving and like, okay, fine, if my mom has told me to go and do it, I will just do it for 10 minutes and done. I mean, I don't care about that. I don't know that it works or doesn't work. Then it will not work. Okay, you'd rather just don't waste time over there. So that's how you relate to it. And yantras and the gemstones, are also one of the things people ask about. It does work. It also looks into the energy of, of the house, and it really increase the energy as well as decrease the energy. So you should be really consulting rightly when you are using these yantras and the gemstone. While I always talk about the prayers, mantras, good intention, meditations are the best way. And these gemstones as well as these crystals helps and enhance that particular energy. Okay, so very briefly, and then we will open up for the question. Okay, so far we wanted to just reach over here. So what you are seeing over here is a snapshot of what a horoscope looks like. Okay, so on this side you are seeing a horoscope. Okay, and this 1, 2, 3, 4, it relates. One relates to the zodiac sign Aries, 2 Taurus, 3 Gemini. Okay, I have the sequence in the appendix. I will show you. So this is how it relates. And what you are seeing over here is called Gemini rising. In the Gemini rising, you are seeing AS relate to the ascendant, and you are seeing two particular planet over here. Okay, and then it talks a lot about, so then it like moves on into different planets, into different places. So just looking into this horoscope, start with the give you a greater understanding of these grahas, understand the meanings of this. Then we look into and also do consider degrees. When it comes to degrees, what we try to do is, in terms of degrees, in the beginning we try to simplify and tell you that care about degrees if it is really needed. Okay, so once you understand, there is much more time for the confusion coming up. Okay, so worry about that later. Now, when you are looking into these part, even when we are talking a snapshot of the these okay, what positions they are into. I'm sorry about this. I have to reshare. So sorry about this, which has gone in the middle. I will just for a backup, I will make sure I have it. I have a backup from here as well. So just in case in trouble, we are here. Moving on, so let me very quickly touch upon on some of this part. So again, this is again extension will be coming up in the next few sessions when we'll be getting into this is the part I wanted to make sure I show it to you guys. Is when we are mentioning about zodiac sign, it has the Sanskrit meanings over here. You see in the English, this is what I was mentioning. Aries, Taurus, and there's 1, 2, 3 numbers. So when somebody is remembering this, you should also remember the sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, because many a time it displays in a horoscope where it writes 1 or 2, 3, 4. It doesn't talks about that, what it relates to. So having this understanding will become very important for you. And also in what sequence it's going. Okay. So, Aries comes first and then Taurus, then Gemini. It has its greater importance. Also, the lordship, how it is defined. Okay. So Aries has given a lordship of Mars. Symbol is also important, but I will say in the beginning, when you are trying to understand and memorize the sequence, uh, keep it simple. Remember the sequence and the lordship. Okay. There is a clue to remember this lordship. I will be talking about those as well. So having this, so now you can see a Cancer is owned by Moon, Leo owned by Sun. And both the side of this, you see a Mercury ownership. Okay, so Mercury ownership is coming to the Gemini and the Virgo. And then again, you're taking another circle, you see a Venus and Venus. Okay, 2 and 7 is by Venus. Okay, then 1 and 8 is the lordship by Mars. 1 is Aries and 8 is Scorpio. Okay? So these things should be on tip of a tongue for a basic students. Okay? So if it is on tip of your tongue, that will become that will make you follow the sessions very well. Okay, it doesn't mean that we are talking about science all the time, but having this whenever we are bringing in, you will be able to grasp it quite well. Another thing keep in the mind is the degree. So each Rashi we talked about is 30 degrees. Okay. So if it is starting from the Aries, so it starts from the 0 to 30 goes, and from the next we'll have another next 30 and so on. And it ends with 360. The last one is like a little bit cut over here is the Pisces. And the Pisces is owned by Jupiter. So these two planets, which is Saturn and the Jupiter, we also saw the slow moving planet. The Jupiter and Saturn was the planet which were the slow moving. They are also called the outer planets. And they are also, if you make a circle with the sun and moon in the middle, and then you put on one circle for Mercury, other for the Venus, and then you put another one for Mars, then you put for the Jupiter, and then the last one comes the Saturn. Okay. So this is how the circle. So that also gives you, which also say is the planetary kingdom is also we talk about, because we can always relate to the sun and moon as a king and a queen over there, and then you can relate to the Mercury as a prince and the Venus as a like a kind of a princess or the chief. So you can come up with those names as well. While it's important part is you remember the sequence. However, you remember, one of the hint to remember things is either in terms of meanings or these sequence, make stories around this. Okay. More you become imaginative in terms of making your story, better you will be remembering it. Okay. And because as you will be getting into, you will be seeing that you have to much more remember in terms of signs, characteristics, which, what kind of energy it is bringing into the life. So bringing all of this, if you are good into making stories, you will remember like this. Okay. Because, even think about it, I'm just telling you a very beautiful story over here, relating it to anybody's life. You will remember the whole session that, this story has been shared at that time. So that's the reason behind we talk about stories. And people come up with the many creative ideas over here when it comes to stories. So with that, I would like to stop sharing and giving you guys an opportunity to ask your question, clarify your points if you have any towards the course, towards what all we are going to cover, and what should be the sequence you should be following. You can definitely ask your question. And feel free to unmute yourself. Yes, Shripaji.
Yeah, sorry, I joined a little late. I had some computer issues, but did I hear you correct? These recordings are all on online that we can have access to if we miss them?
Yes.
Okay.
We have we really understand this. That's why we have a whole e-learning system.
Okay.
Okay. So when you are signing up, you are also creating your login. Okay. And automatically the access for the course is given to you. And immediately after signing up, you can just go to this and you can start to look it. Even these recordings, which we are having a session right now, will be available within 24 hours over there. Okay. So if you miss a session, it will be there. Same will happen with the review sessions. Okay. So when we are reviewing this session with somebody who is like, say, falling behind or something, then also what we try to do is we record and we make sure that is available for you. And at the same place, since it's a whole learning management system, we also bring the course material, your Zoom invite, even the Zoom invite for the review session. Everything is available, will be available over there for you. So you don't have to kind of ping other people to be able to know. Okay. While we also do that, like the say class discussion, there is a group with the people meet and they discuss, they say hi, hello to each other, and the faculties are also there to answer their questions. Mm, but that becomes just to get an instant answer. But in the e-learning, that becomes a reference, because sometimes even the PDF we sent you for the course material is not available for you, or it's gone somewhere. You don't know where it's. You just go there, you download once again. It's there for you.
Perfect. All right, that helps a lot. Yep. Thank you.
Sounds pretty good. Any further question? So one thing I would like to mention, Vikramji, I saw you joined at 10 o'clock. So the session on Sunday is going to be at 10:30 all the time. Okay. So we have people from the California, so there was a request for another half an hour. Okay. Any further question? So if you are fine, I would like to really ask one of to you that Phil, do you have any question or clarification to make?
Hi there. No questions. No questions. We can discuss more on Wednesday when we have our call.
Perfect. So that reminds me, all the people who are coming for the Jyotish Fundamental Level 1, they have 101 mentoring session available with the faculty. Okay. So we really want to understand you, where you are on your path, where how to, because these sessions are going to be a close-knit session. It's not going to be like 200 people are joining this. So if there is a 200 people, we make a multiple sessions for them. So we really want to know you. So we personalize the session for you, and we also take an opportunity to be able to ask you where you are at your stage. So you have a one-on-one mentoring as well. So feel free to request for it on Arsh Jyotish, and just we will match the time with the faculty and give you that opportunity to have the conversation. Okay, complimentary. So no worries up from that angle. Okay. And also I will say one more hint: when you are doing that, if you want to go to your own horoscope, feel free to even take the opportunity to look through the horoscope. Any further clarification? So Lydia ji, any comment from your side? If you can.
Very much. That was very clear. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lydia ji. So nice to hear from you. I'm seeing some comment over here. So thanks a lot for everyone to be here with us and take an opportunity for the one-on-one mentoring session, and looking forward to see most of you in the session. So we always close with our closing mantra. And we also have, in general, we have a WhatsApp groups So I will be, even in the emails, we forwarded the link so that you can join and, be in touch with us. If not for other question, so we will be closing with our closing one. Okay. Om Purnamida Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudakshate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot for your time being there with us. Okay, you have a wonderful rest of your weekend and see you guys again on Sunday. And we'll talk about review sessions there onward. Thank you.
Thank you so much.